So first and foremost, we've got a kickoff that is now brought out to the 25-yard line as of, when did that take place? 6 or 7 years ago, something in that range.
Was it 2 years ago, maybe? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't remember the exact year on that, but somewhere in the last 6 or 7 years. So it's made it more advantageous for the offense and less of an incentive to bring the ball out of the end zone. And then we went from that rule to this fair catch rule that then advances the ball, regardless of where you catch the ball in play, out to the 25-yard line. Okay. My first issue is with that rule, Don, just in the structure of the game. So I'm sure you know baseball and softball pretty well. It's to me analogous to putting a runner at second base and conjuring up a situation that doesn't exist.
Right.
And so where did this runner from second base come from? Well, they didn't earn the spot on second base. They are gifted the spot on second base to fabricate a situation. And that it goes against the structure of football and all the other rules that are congruous to the game of football, that a kickoff returner would catch the ball at the 2-yard line, the 8-yard line, wherever it be, and it just artificially come out to the 25-yard line. So I have an issue with that, and I was just curious to get your thoughts on that rule change.
I don't like the rule change. I think it's a poor, one of my guiding principles in all these years of coaching was simply never affect a change just for the sake of change. You have to be sure that it's improving the game or improving your offense or improving your defense, whatever the case might be. That's a rule I don't think that was thoroughly thought out, especially when you just factor in the love of the game, the appreciation that the average fan has for the game. Let's face it, a kickoff return is an exciting play. And I know what they're going to say, of course. It's too dangerous to play. Well, the last time I checked, all those other snaps are dangerous too. So I don't really want to buy it. I'll give you a specific example of why I like the traditional rules. And I have no issue at all with backing the kickoff up. There were years ago, of course, we kicked off from the 40-yard line. And I remember what that was like. If you're playing a team like Michigan with Bo Schembechler, Bo didn't want to kick the ball deep into the end zone. He wanted the ball to come down the 1-yard line because he wanted to tackle you on the 15. And you're just hoping that you don't have to return one from the 1. I know you could argue, let's let it bounce and go into the end zone. Well, it doesn't always go into the end zone. There's always that unlikely possibility that it's going to stay on the field of play. And, of course, in those days, if it came down to the 1, you were going to field it on the 1, and you were going to hope you could get to the 20. And that's what good coverage does for you. Great hang time and make them return it. And the other side of that coin, of course, is develop a return man like Tim Dwight. That's a huge weapon. And now go into every game confident you're going to win the field position after kickoff, simply because you got a better return man than anyone else. So that's my disappointment, is they changed that rule. I don't have any issues at all backing up the kickoff to the 35. That made sense. As the legs got stronger, it made sense to go ahead and require a deeper kick to get into the end zone. But I wish we would. It seems silly to me. You fair catch a ball on the 2-yard line and you just get rewarded with being on the 25. That seems silly.
Yeah, because when the ball was kicked into the end zone and either brought out to the 20 or 25-yard line, the end zones have always been treated differently. The ball's out of play, and therefore the touchback, the kickoff return to the 20 when it's caught in the end zone is similar to a touchback on defense, or if there's a turnover through the end zone, that the 20-yard line was that set standard. Otherwise, right, there is a reason in which the ball is placed on the field. It was earned. That spot, there was a reason for it to be on that spot of the field. So the artificial aspect of that rubs me the wrong way. Do we know that special teams plays create more injuries? Are there more injuries? Has that study been done? Do you know anything regarding any kind of research on that?
I can't honestly recall, Mark, ever reading true numbers derived from a study about kickoff returns versus all of their snaps. I'm not sure. I think people assume that. But honestly, I can't remember that many injuries on kickoffs, both covering kicks and, for that matter, returning kicks. I don't know for sure that that's true.
I'm only going to monopolize the questions for a few more minutes here, Cory, but I did have a few other ones I wanted to hit Don up on. The other one of the special teams variety we talked about last week was the risk reward of rushing the punter because of the propensity of the roughing and the running into the kicker versus the possibility that you're going to block a punt seems to have caused most special teams coaches to not go after the punter. Therefore, it seems as though there's been a higher rate of punts that I've seen where the punter is able to catch the football, survey the coverage in the front, see that the returning squad is peeling back, not rushing him. Therefore, the gunners and everyone else is able to get down the field. He can wait that tick or 2 ticks, kick the ball. Therefore, there are less punts returned as well. So we have less special teams plays because of that as well.
You're right. That's one thing I appreciated about a guy like Tim Dwight again. He was almost, and he hated to fair catch any punt. And he said typically he wouldn't. And back in those days, of course, you had the rule that you got to be 6 feet away, as I recall it was. I think it was 2 yards away. And that's really all the room he needed. That's all he wanted was a couple of yards of cushion from the coverage team. And he didn't fair catch very many at all. And he, of course, as you know, I think he's the only, I read this the other day, Pat Hardy, who Cory knows, and you don't know, Mark, but a local sports writer, he had come up with, I believe it was 30 different facts about Iowa football that you would not know. And one of those facts was simply this: Tim Dwight is the only player in college football history that has returned kickoffs for touchdowns against Michigan, Ohio State, and Penn State. He did it against all three. And the guys on the sideline watching were let's see, Joe Pa from Penn State. I remember that one vividly. And then I guess Ohio State, I don't know who that would have been. I can't remember now.
Probably John Cooper.
Maybe even after Cooper, I think. You might be right. Tim played, I think his last year was 97 maybe.
Yeah, so Cooper was there to 2000.
Yeah. So John Cooper, and then for Michigan, I guess, was probably Lloyd Carr. I know it was, well, wait a minute. The year they won the national title, wasn't Lloyd Carr the coach?
Yes.
That's an
he would have
infamous
been there in
game.
94. Yep.
Mark, you're not aware of this, but I'll mention it to you because I think it says so much about Tim Dwight. And I know based on the way I'm talking, he must be running for elected office here. But in that game, they won the national title that year. The closest game they had was Iowa, 24-21 in the Big House. I think that was the score, 3-point game. But in that game, at the end of the half's winding down. I'm screaming for us to take a timeout just to force Michigan to punt. They were backed up. They were on the -5 maybe. And I have to admit, all I was thinking was punt block. And the clock is down to maybe 3 seconds or 5 seconds. My point is the last play of the half was going to be this punt. And we went for the block and didn't get it. And the ball comes sailing out. But the rest of the story is before Tim Dwight left the bench, he walked by Coach Fry and he said, "Coach Fry, this one's going back to the house." And he fills the ball and he runs through the entire Michigan football team to score with no time on the clock. That's how the first half ended. And in the second half, I believe it was the second half kickoff even, he goes 75 yards with the second half kickoff to set up another score. I think at that point we did go ahead, but Michigan came back, and to their credit, they beat us. It was a wonderful game, but a great game played by Tim Dwight.
Absolutely, and that's amazing that certainly you're bringing me back, because I remember that game, and that was the closest Michigan in a 12-0 season played at the Big House. But I remember that Tim Dwight had a big return in that game. I didn't remember that he had 2.
I'm pretty sure he had 2.
Game. And Cory won't be surprised if I'm about 90% sure that the score was 28-24 in that game. I'm almost positive.
I don't doubt that, because I remember it was a 1-score game. I can't recall the score, but it was 20-something to 20-something as I recalled.
Good stuff. Don Patterson's with us, everyone. Please leave your comments and questions as we talk Iowa football. And yes, we will allow Cory to speak during this episode. But Cory, I appreciate you letting me start things out because I had a number of questions for Coach Patterson. And I guess the last one on the special teams beat would be, if we go back to a time before all the rules changes and the nuances that we just factored in, were the special teams plays, number of plays in a game, generally right about 1/3 of the game?
That's a good question, and I can't give you an accurate answer simply because I never coordinated the kicking game, never coordinated specialty teams. Back in those days, we didn't have an ST coordinator. Every assistant coach had some responsibility in the kicking game, so it was a duty that was shared within the staff. Probably the percentage hadn't changed very much, I don't think.
No.
It's simply that nowadays they're more likely to be what you might call a dead play. It's going to be a fair catch. It's going to be a ball that's fair caught on a cuff even, or not returned out of the end zone. Or it's going to be a punt that's punted off the field. And there's nothing wrong with punting off the field, of course, as far as corner kicks go. That's one thing that our punter is good at. But one thing I think, and Cory knows this, one thing I would like for him to prove he's better at is spinning the ball off his foot. The old traditional punt. If you're punting into the wind, there's no doubt in my mind of this, you're better off with a ball that spins into that wind as far as the maximum distance goes than the end-over-end kicks that a lot of the rugby guys use. There's more wind resistance on those rugby punts.